But how about we talk about where we left off? And I want to thank you guys, the fans, first and foremost, for putting up the views, the likes, you name it. I really appreciate your support. We appreciate your support on this channel. We did very well in the World Juniors, and I thought we brought some terrific coverage, and you brought some terrific comments, terrific analysis on your part. And I really just appreciate all you guys clicking on the videos from Slovakia, who we didn't think was going to rack up all those views, but they ended up doing so, to Canada, to the US, and all that jazz. I thank you guys for the ride. It's too bad it got cut short. Why don't we just start off pretty quickly with the World Juniors getting cut off short after a couple positive cases. Really, the IHF decides to suspend the tournament, which has really caused havoc on Twitter and social media, whatever have you, just because of the fact that they had a tournament last season when COVID can arguably be in one of the worst positions last December, and everything ran perfectly fine. There was no problems whatsoever with the empty arenas. No one was complaining. We were just happy to watch great competitive hockey. This year, everything changed, and they canceled the tournament after I wouldn't even say a handful of COVID cases. So very briefly, boys, what are your thoughts on the cancellations, and maybe just briefly some things you noticed about the tournament, the players within it? Because I know it lasted 2 or 3 days, but we saw some pretty terrific talents on there. Start with you, Jared. What did you think of the little things, the small kind of tournament we had, and how are you feeling about it coming such short notice coming down of it?
Well, for starters, I'm gonna touch on the secondary thing you said at the end. I'm pretty frustrated, to be honest, about how it all happened, how it all was handled. I don't think the IIHF really did everything in their power to put the precautions in place. I think they very much were mentally like, we're done with COVID, we're done with the COVID world, and as a result, they decided no bubble. They decided to try to get the players to be in hotels and stuff with the general public, which I just think it was way too early to do that. So I could go on forever about that, but I just think they really dropped the ball, to be honest. It was frustrating how that happened because everyone was so hyped, everyone was so ready, and then about 2 days later, just a couple positive tests and the whole tournament was down the drain. So that was frustrating to begin with. But there definitely was a few players to really keep an eye on. For starters, I'm going to start with Canada because there was 2 players that really caught my eye. For starters, it's 2021 first overall pick of Owen Power. He is a big boy. He's a big defenseman. I believe he's about 6'6", but he also was able to put up some offensive numbers, and that was amazing to see. He put up a hat trick in that first game, and in general, he's just such a big body. He's able to move the puck, but also is able to launch it. And I mean, every time he launched it, his last name's Power, and it seemed to be a powerful shot that was able to fly through goaltenders. And yep, he's a great player that I'm sure Buffalo Sabres fans are frothing at the mouth to really get going with and get to see him in a Buffalo Sabres jersey. So a lot of jokes online that people want him because he's currently playing in Michigan. He's playing in college. Or Michigan University, I believe that's what it is. But basically, a lot of people wanted to take the route that some other famous like college and university prospects took, where it's like they reject that offer and go to another team. It's very unlikely. It's pure speculation. But it's Leafs fans being Leafs fans of, oh, this guy grew up in Toronto. Let's throw him in a Leafs jersey. So of course that's where Toronto fans took it. But in general, he was amazing, a lot of fun to watch. And secondly, Mr. Connor Bedard, the 2023 first overall pick, top prospect for that age. And he is unbelievable. He scored a 4-goal game in our second game against Austria, the one which we actually all of us watched together the day before the tournament was shut down. So that was pretty frustrating. It was, I can't wait to unpack this game we watched together. And then the next day it was done for. That was horrible. But in general, those were definitely some shining stars to keep an eye on. And I'm very excited to see what they can do, hopefully next time around, if World Juniors players are able to return to this tournament next year.
And you mentioned Owen Power, terrific talent for Michigan. And for the first time in what appears to be a while, Buffalo fans are punching the air because they finally have something to celebrate. This kid, I wouldn't say he's legit, because I think we knew he was going to be a pretty high-touted prospect, and we knew there was going to be some talent there. But what he put on display in the short sample size, obviously, it was terrific to see from Buffalo Sabres standpoint and from a hockey standpoint in general. I loved watching him. His powerful shot was a very fun one to watch, as well as they dismantle the Czech Republic. Czechia. I'm out of my World Juniors talk right now, but Czechia, they beat them. I believe it was 6-3. I'm not too sure of the score, but no, they took a win there. They took a win against Austria. And Connor Bedard, I wish we talked a little bit more about him in the preview show as well. We didn't spend as much time as I like to because we had so many teams to cover, and we did a great job of it nonetheless. But Connor Bedard, we all thought he was sort of going to be the 15th forward, 14th forward on the team. So we didn't spend too much time sort of giving him a realistic chance. But with that game against Austria, one of the best World Juniors performances for Team Canada we have seen in quite some time, he lived it up to the max. And he's showing as a reason as to why he's such a high touted pick and the projected first overall pick as of right now in the near draft. So we've talked about Connor Bedard. We talked about Owen Power. Ramoli, can you talk about the cancellation of the tournament? Anything that stood out to you in the brief tenure of the World Juniors?
Honestly, it kind of sucked. Like as you know, I hosted the World Junior thing, so putting a lot of effort into it, and then just to see it get canceled just kind of sucked. But hopefully, we're talking. I think they were talking like June, July. It'll come back, which fingers crossed it happens. But in terms of the actual hockey, I guess you guys talked about Team Canada. I'll kind of focus. I guess Jesper Wallstedt had a ridiculous game against was it Slovakia? I think, or was it the States? It was one of those two, maybe even both. I think both games, honestly. He was unreal. And I guess I should mention maybe some Leaf prospects.
Yes.
Topi Niemela was a little bit underwhelming.
Yeah.
I think you wanted to say something, Mario?
No, you're right on it.
Yeah. Topi Niemela was a little underwhelming. Not calling him a bust, whatever. It was 2 games. The guy could have who's to say like that night against, I forget who they were playing, but Finland was slated to play that day. Niemela could have put up a hat trick, and all criticism is gone. So you can't really put stock into this, even smaller game sample size. Who else do we have? Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. Yeah, Matthew Nyes, he scored a goal against Russia. Who they play? It's honestly, it feels like a blur to me.
It does. It does.
I know he scored. I think it was a power play goal. It might have been the first goal of the game. We have Ronnie Rovinen, who was actually pretty good. I liked him, even though he wasn't even a standout guy to me on Finland. I just thought he was good. I like their other guys a lot more, but you know what? It's fun. We had fun a couple days. We got together, ended up ripping some chill later in the evening. So I had fun, to say the least.
No, I had fun watching the tournament. I had fun ripping on you guys in Chell. I dusted the floor with you guys. I'll pat myself on the back.
Whoa, dusted the floor.
All right. Well, Jared's heroic third period comebacks, you put those ones aside and we have a pretty good record. But again, I'll do the pumping of the tires for today's episode with Evan in Mexico. But no, you mentioned the World Juniors and things that we could have seen. Topi Niemela, what he could have done. He could have put up a hat trick. Probably unlikely, but you never know. That's the problem that I'm sort of having facing the World Junior. We don't know what we were going to see. We don't know if me and Jared's predictions of whether Sweden was going to win gold or not would come to fruition. You're not going to know. That's the sad part about it. But fear not, this will not be the last time we're going to see these star players in action. I heard that the Olympic rosters for obviously the NHL is not going, so they're sending their other players. We're going to see some familiar faces from Team Canada, at least. I haven't looked at the other teams just yet, but I've seen Team Canada. I've seen Owen Power's name on that list. And there's just a couple other ones as well. They're just off a blur right now. But
there's a couple. Yeah, there's Cole Perfetti's playing. Kent Johnson. I think one of the goalies. And there's another forward I'm forgetting, but yeah, there's a couple good ones to watch out for.
Yeah, so
some very questionable ones. Like I'm not going to get into the whole situations, but I mean,
let's not unpack those.
We're not getting into that, but there was some questionable picks from Canada's point. I don't know what they were thinking there. It's just they're asking for an issue from the media, but whatever. That's the team they decided to assemble. Similar with Russia, we were getting into their.
It's not the final roster. We should probably mention that they're not on the final roster. Yeah,
it's very rumored. It's very much the equivalent of for the World Juniors where they have that big list, or for the Olympics as well. They have a big list and then they narrow it down. So that's about the stage you're at right now. There's some very questionable kind of players that are on that. Again, I'm not going to get into why or what, but there's some interesting choices that I'm very curious to see how they're going to kind of work out.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see if these young guys end up making the team. I'm sure they will, because you're just going to want to send your player to develop more and more. If you're any NHL team holding on to these guys like Winnipeg and Perfetti, Buffalo, and Owen Power, you want to hang on to these guys and see what they can do at that level as well. So hopefully that comes to fruition. We see those players playing and maybe we can get a bit of the World Juniors back. But again, it will never be the same, unfortunately. I heard things about them pushing it to the summer. It's the IHF. You never know what they're going to be doing. They got ripped on. I was going to throw it back to you guys for your opinions on that, but I think we're going to pump the brakes on the World Juniors talk just a bit. We got a lot of NHL content to get into, and many would consider the World Juniors some old news, unfortunately.